The child's drawing fluttered from Administrator Zek's wastebasket like a dying bird. An earth drawn in bright crayon with stick-figure humans waving goodbye. At the bottom, in the shaky letters of a 6-year-old, "Goodbye Grandpa Joe," Joe Harrison's hands didn't shake as he smoothed the paper flat. 12 years dealing blackjack at the Bellagio had taught him to read micro-expressions in milliseconds and maintain perfect composure while counting cards through 6-deck shoes. But Emma's drawing, Emma, who lived 3 time zones away when the Zentari came, Emma, whose name he'd found 40 minutes ago on Transport Manifest ZT7749, made his chest tight with controlled fury. He folded the drawing into his cleaning cart with the same methodical precision he'd once used to stack chips. In Vegas, rushed movements drew attention from surveillance. Here, they drew worse. The manila folder on Zek's desk lay exactly where he'd left it, 17 degrees counterclockwise from perfect alignment. Coffee ring on the lower right corner still damp. Joe's eyes catalogued every detail as he emptied the wastebasket. The folder contained 847 names. Emma Harrison was entry 1, 542. Departure, 40, 6 hours, 18 minutes. Destination, Kepler Colony Labor Camp 12, where human children lasted an average of 8 months before their lungs collapsed in the thin atmosphere. Joe finished sanitizing the office with professional precision, each movement calculated to avoid the microcameras positioned at exactly 84 inches from the floor. Perfect for monitoring 7-foot Zentari, useless for tracking human custodial staff working at ground level. 3 weeks earlier, Joe's first shift cleaning for the Zentari Regional Administrative Complex started at 4:34 a.m., 26 minutes before official schedule. In casinos, early arrivals caught the tells others missed. Dealers palming chips, players marking cards, the subtle patterns that revealed who was running games within the game. The complex stretched across downtown Denver like a brutalist monument to bureaucratic efficiency. 47 floors of brushed aluminum and one-way glass, designed to intimidate. Joe wheeled his cart through the employee entrance, badge scanner logging him into humanity's new normal with a soft beep that echoed like a casino chip hitting felt. Human Harrison. Security Supervisor Vex materialized beside the service elevator, 7 feet of pristine blue uniform and compound eyes that tracked movement like pit boss surveillance cameras. His secondary arms constantly adjusted the tablet in his primary hands. Obsessive symmetry behavior, the kind of tell that revealed deeper psychological patterns. Assignment parameters. Joe accepted the tablet, noting how Vex's left mandible twitched when he mentioned floor 18. Accessible only during night shifts, officially restricted to alien personnel. In Vegas, forbidden areas were where the real money changed hands. Deviation from approved procedures results in immediate termination, Vex added, his translator box rendering the threat in calm, professional English. Joe nodded with practiced deference, letting his shoulders slump slightly. Submissive body language that made authority figures comfortable. Understood, sir. Standard commercial protocols, right? The mandible twitched again. Correct. Report discrepancies immediately. Tell number 2. In casinos, people who said immediately usually meant never. Joe spent his first week mapping the territory with a card counter's eye for mathematical precision. The Zentari operated on 8-hour shifts, with precisely scheduled breaks. 9:15 a.m. stimulant break lasting exactly 12 minutes. 2:30 p.m. briefings that cleared entire floors for 47 minutes. Night shift changeover at 6:0 p.m. sharp, leaving skeleton crews until morning. But it was the trash that told the real story. People discarded everything they didn't want discovered. In Vegas, that meant losing tickets, dealer communications, and the occasional suicide note. Here, it meant something far more valuable. The Zentari printed classified documents on water-soluble paper. Smart security, except they hadn't accounted for commercial floor wax preserving organic materials when applied in microscopically thin layers. Joe's breakthrough came Tuesday night, level 14, Administrator Krell's office. His wastebasket yielded a partially dissolved report, most text illegible except for 2 phrases preserved in wax: human inventory reconciliation and Phase 2, 30-day implementation. 30 days, not the 6 months Earth's provisional government had negotiated. 30 days until 200 million humans vanished into labor camps scattered across 17 worlds. Joe photographed the document with equipment disguised as a moisture detector. Casino-grade surveillance kit designed to record everything while appearing to record nothing. His hands moved with the muscle memory of 12 years dealing cards to people who'd kill him for counting them. That night, in his converted storage closet quarters, Joe studied the building's architectural schematics stolen from the maintenance database using credentials that reset automatically during cleaning windows. The facility's biometric security operated on fail-safe protocols. If custodial staff were trapped during emergencies, the system defaulted to maintenance mode, logging all access in a separate database that archived automatically every 72 hours. Joe tested his theory Thursday night at 2:17 a.m. The 18th floor's restricted access door opened with his standard credentials. No alarms, no additional security, just 40,000 square feet of classified intelligence protected by the assumption that janitors couldn't read. They were wrong about that, too. What he found changed everything. Project relocation manifests, transportation schedules, classification matrices sorting humans by utility, with redundant populations marked for disposal, timeline charts showing Phase 2 launching in 26 days, and on Administrator Zek's desk, a manila folder labeled Priority Relocations, Children Under 12. Emma's name was on page 3, line 1, 542, next to her age, 6, location, Colorado Springs Relocation Center, and destination, Kepler Colony, LC-12. Below that, in smaller text, projected survival duration, 8.3 months. Joe's hands didn't shake as he photographed every page. Casino discipline never left you. Maintain perfect composure. Document everything. Never let the mark know you'd spotted their tell, but this wasn't a game anymore. 18 hours ago. The network started with Maria Santos during the 10-minute overlap between cleaning shifts, both of them invisible in the pre-dawn darkness of Building C's loading dock. 20 years managing restaurant supply chains had taught Maria to read logistics like sheet music. Every deviation from normal patterns revealed operational intent. Notice anything unusual about the transport containers lately? Joe kept his voice conversational, eyes tracking the surveillance cameras positioned at 84 inches, perfect for Zentari height, blind to anything below 52 inches. He mopped the loading dock floor with methodical strokes, each movement calculated to avoid electronic attention. Maria's weathered hands paused over her inventory tablet. She'd lost her restaurant to orbital bombardment, her son to the first wave of relocations, the kind of losses that either broke people or forged them into precision instruments of revenge. Unusual how? Medical-grade life support systems, enough packaging for bulk shipment. Joe dipped his mop, wrung it exactly twice. Like they're preparing to ship something fragile. Maria's eyes sharpened with recognition, the look of someone who'd spent decades reading kitchen dynamics and supplier lies. Transport containers with atmospheric processors. I ran the numbers. They've ordered enough for everyone. Everyone? Every human in the district? 2.3 million units. The way she said units carried 20 years of professional disgust. They stared at each other for exactly 3 seconds. Long enough to confirm mutual understanding, not long enough to trigger behavioral analysis algorithms. You know Tony Reeves from Building Maintenance? Maria asked. Joe nodded. Former facilities manager for Denver General Hospital, now classified as Environmental Systems Specialist. The man who'd kept a 1,000-bed hospital running through budget cuts and equipment failures, who understood infrastructure like a cardiologist, understood circulation. He mentioned unusual power consumption patterns, like they're installing transport-grade equipment in all the buildings simultaneously. Joe felt the familiar tingle of pattern recognition. The same instinct that let him track 4 different card counts while maintaining casual conversation with drunk tourists. Acceleration? That's what I'm thinking. The network grew through professional relationships, forged in competence and tempered by loss. Tony brought his building engineers, men and women who understood that every system had pressure points, that complex infrastructure always had simple failure modes. Maria recruited her supply coordinators, masters of logistics who could move anything anywhere while maintaining perfect documentation. They communicated through the invisible language of service work. Supply requisitions doubled as coded intelligence. Maintenance schedules coordinated dead drops. The professional courtesy that let any custodial worker access any facility in the galaxy and blend instantly into operational background. But Joe's real advantage came from 12 years of reading human behavior under pressure. The Zentari surveillance system suffered from fundamental design flaws rooted in alien psychology. Cameras positioned for 7-foot sight lines. Motion sensors calibrated for Zentari body heat signatures. Behavioral analysis algorithms that flagged aggressive or suspicious movements but ignored the careful, methodical patterns of professional maintenance work. Joe mapped every blind spot with mathematical precision. Camera fields of view intersected at predictable angles, creating dead zones approximately 2.7 meters wide at floor level. Human custodial staff working below 52 inches existed in surveillance shadows. More critically, the aliens suffered from the same operational blindness as every casino he'd worked. They monitored players, not staff. Important people doing important things in important places drew algorithmic attention. Invisible people doing invisible work in invisible spaces might as well not exist. Joe tested this systematically, using legitimate cleaning schedules to access increasingly sensitive areas. The 15th floor housed strategic planning computers. The 17th contained off-world communication arrays. And the 18th floor, restricted to alien personnel only, opened like a vault during the 2:00 a.m. maintenance window. Tony provided the technical expertise Joe needed to weaponize the building's infrastructure. 20 years of hospital engineering had taught him that complex systems always had elegant failure points, single components whose malfunction could cascade through entire networks. "Humidity's the killer," Tony explained during a Tuesday night deep clean operation, his voice barely audible over the sound of industrial air scrubbers. His maintenance team was performing routine atmospheric calibration, while Joe accessed classified levels. Their communication equipment's designed for homeworld environment. 37% humidity, specific atmospheric pressure. Increase moisture by 3%, and you get intermittent connection degradation. 5% triggers cascade failures. Detectable? Looks like environmental wear patterns. Normal infrastructure aging. Tony's smile was sharp as a surgeon's scalpel. Been adjusting HVAC parameters all week. Their equipment starts failing in exactly 17 days. 17 days! 9 days before Phase 2 launched. But technical sabotage wasn't enough. Joe needed real-time intelligence, transport schedules, security protocols, and, most importantly, the precise location of specific targets. Like Emma. Present moment. Joe found Emma's complete file at 2:43 a.m., buried in Administrator Zek's personal database behind 17 layers of security that reset automatically during maintenance mode. Transport ship designation, Harvester, 7. Manifest position, 1, 540, 2 of 2, 847. Departure, 40, 6 hours, 12 minutes. Destination, Kepler Colony Labor Camp, 12. Below that, clinical projections that made his vision blur. Average survival duration for subjects aged 4-8 in reduced atmospheric pressure. Statistical models showing respiratory failure patterns. Disposal protocols for expired inventory. Emma's projected lifespan, 8.3 months. Joe photographed the manifest with hands steady as stone, then began the real work. Using access codes extracted from dissolved documents and navigation protocols stolen from transport databases, Joe began introducing surgical errors into the Zentari logistics network. not sabotage. Mathematics. Subtle modifications that would cascade through interconnected systems like dominoes arranged by a master. Harvester 7's navigation computer stored jump coordinates as a 47-digit string representing spatial positioning across 4 dimensions. Joe located the specific digits controlling dimensional transition angles, coordinates 23 through 29, and introduced a single character modification. Instead of transitioning to Kepler colony at coordinates 847.239.44.1.7739, the ship would emerge at 847.239.44.1.7729, a difference of only 10 units in the 4th spatial dimension. Instead of arriving in orbit around a habitable world, Harvester 7 would materialize in empty space exactly 7.2 light-years from anywhere, with enough fuel for emergency life support and a distress beacon that would reach human rescue vessels long before Zentari recovery operations could respond. The beauty was systematic plausibility. Not obviously sabotage, but the kind of random navigation error that happened when you rushed complex operations under impossible timelines. A single-digit transposition that any stressed operator might make during data entry. Joe completed 17 similar modifications across the transport fleet, each error mathematically precise, each failure mode designed to activate only during jump transitions when detection became impossible. He finished his work and wheeled his cart toward the service elevator, passing Administrator Vex in the hallway. The security supervisor's compound eyes tracked Joe's movement pattern. Steady, methodical, professionally invisible. Human Harrison, Vex said without looking up from his tablet. Your efficiency ratings remain adequate. Thank you, sir, Joe replied with practiced humility, letting his shoulders curve into submissive posture. Just trying to do my job right. Vex continued toward his office, where he would spend the morning reviewing reports showing equipment failures, scheduling delays, and the inexplicable difficulties plaguing Project Relocation. His mandible would twitch 17 times while reading anomaly reports, each twitch revealing increasing stress patterns that Joe had learned to read like cards in a marked deck. What Vex wouldn't see was the invisible network of professional observers who had turned Zentari operational security into humanity's greatest advantage. Custodial staff, mapping alien plans while emptying wastebaskets. Maintenance workers, introducing calculated failures while performing routine repairs. Supply coordinators creating systematic shortages while maintaining perfect documentation. Joe reached the service elevator and pressed the button for ground level, where dozens of other invisible workers would continue the patient, methodical work of dismantling an alien occupation, one cleaned surface at a time. The smell of industrial disinfectant and alien machinery filled the elevator car. Chemical flowers that made him miss the cigarette smoke and desperation of casino floors. But this was better. This was Emma coming home. 6 hours later, the first reports arrived during Joe's scheduled break, transmitted through Maria's supply chain network using requisition forms that looked like routine inventory updates, but carried coded intelligence about transport operations. Transport ship Harvester 7 had suffered catastrophic navigation failure during its jump to Kepler colony. Emergency protocols activated. All passengers and crew safe, but the ship was stranded in empty space, broadcasting distress signals on frequencies that human vessels monitored more effectively than Zentari rescue operations. By noon, 17 other transport ships had developed similar, random malfunctions, critical life support components failing during pre-launch diagnostics. Navigation computers developing mysterious calculation errors that made interstellar travel impossible. Power systems experiencing harmonic resonances that overloaded alien equipment while leaving human-compatible systems completely functional. Phase 2. Ground to a halt in a cascade of technical failures that looked like everything, except what it actually was. 200 years of human engineering expertise applied with surgical precision to the problem of making alien technology catastrophically unreliable exactly when it mattered most. Joe finished his shift at 2:00 p.m. and walked to the parking garage, where a message waited in his personal vehicle. A supply manifest with handwritten notations in Maria's careful script. Transport operations showing 72% critical failure rate. All priority relocations postponed indefinitely. Statistical analysis suggests systemic equipment degradation across entire fleet. The children are safe. P.S. Tony says the communication breakdowns will peak tomorrow. Perfect timing for Phase 2. Phase 2. Not the Zentari operation, but the human response. Joe Harrison folded Emma's drawing and placed it carefully in his wallet, next to a worn photo of her blowing out birthday candles while wearing a plastic crown that read, "Birthday Princess." Somewhere in deep space, Harvester 7 was broadcasting distress signals that would bring human rescue ships hours before Zentari recovery vessels could plot jump coordinates. His granddaughter was coming home, along with 846 other children who would never see the inside of a labor camp. Above him, 46 floors of alien bureaucracy hummed with desperate productivity as administrators tried to understand how a mathematically perfect plan had dissolved into perfect chaos. None of them considered that their conquest of Earth was being systematically dismantled by the people who emptied their wastebaskets and cleaned their floors. Joe started his car and drove toward the next phase of the operation. A network of invisible professionals who had learned that sometimes the best way to win a war was to convince your enemy they were fighting mechanical failures instead of human ingenuity. The custodial corps had more work to finish. After all, there were 46 floors to clean, and each one contained another opportunity to turn alien overconfidence into humanity's advantage. Emma would be home for Christmas,